The big story of the day, according to the newspapers, is the departure of Wicklow TD Stephen Donnelly from the Social Democrats. And Stephen joins us now. Good morning, Stephen.
Declan, good morning.
Good morning to you. So what led to this situation?
Well, it's been coming for some time, Declan. Ultimately, my first obligation is to the people of Wicklow and East Carlow, and I haven't been able to do the job for the county and for the constituency that I want to do and that I was elected to do. So the leadership team within the Social Democrats hasn't been working well enough for some time. Everybody tried, but sometimes, you know yourself, Declan, and anyone listening knows, sometimes you get involved in things. Everybody tries, everybody believes in what you're trying to do, but it doesn't work. You know, it just doesn't produce the results that you think are needed or other people think are needed.
Did you find you were curtailed by the constraints of what a policy might be of the Social Democrats?
No, I mean, obviously within a party you have to compromise on policy. The policy was not the issue.
How come you couldn't do your job for the people of Wicklow and East Carlow?
The team just didn't work, Declan. You know, Catherine Roshan and I come from different backgrounds. We may have had different ambitions for the party, but whatever it was, and there's no benefit to going into details of, you know, this or that. In the round, taking it all in, we all tried to make it work. I felt I couldn't do the job that I was elected to do, which I take very, very seriously. I flagged it quite some time ago. We discussed it at length. We tried to make it work, and ultimately it didn't work. And rather than staying in something that you know isn't working, it isn't working for you, it isn't working for the people who voted for you, you've got to make a call and say, look, very sadly, I invested nearly 2 years of my life in this. A lot of people got involved. I'm very proud to have tried it. I think we have to keep trying things. We have to keep agitating for change. But in the round, it just wasn't working well enough.
I remember you when you came in here first for the 2011 election, you were a bit of a novice TD. In fact, you didn't know much about politics. And then when you went into the Dáil, having been elected, you said, "Jesus, this place, I had a different perception of it. It's totally different." It might sound that you were naive as well, getting involved with other people. And maybe there is criticism to be had of not sitting down and working out the formula for the Social Democrats with the three of you getting involved.
But you have to be prepared to try new things. One of the problems with Irish politics is it's stale. It's been a cartel for a long time. Everyone's got their boxes that they're meant to fit in. You're left wing, you're right wing, you're liberal, you're conservative, and it's all very, you know, colour by numbers. And that, as we know from the crash and from a lot of the bad things that happened in the last Dáil, that's not good enough. It's not good enough for the people of Wicklow. It's not good enough for the country. And people have to agitate for change. I was elected in 2011 in order to agitate for change in a wide variety of areas, and we won some of them and we lost some of them. And I got involved with the Social Democrats to do the same thing. I am firmly of the view that Ireland needs a mainstream, credible Social Democratic party. That's what I got involved in trying to create. I still think Ireland does need that. So I make no apologies whatsoever. You know, you have to try new things. You have to agitate for change. And that's what we did. I don't believe it was remotely naive. I understand why some people might say that, but I don't think there's anything naive about saying the country needs this. It's going to be a really difficult thing to do. We may succeed or fail, but we have to try. So I certainly went into it with my eyes wide open. I'm very happy that I did. And certainly myself and the team in Wicklow, we've been inundated with emails and phone calls and texts over the last 24 hours with huge levels of support. You know, some people, to be honest, are delighted I've left. They never really wanted me in there in the first place. And other people are saying, look, we supported you. We still support you. You tried something. It hasn't worked out, and that's okay. Let's move on. You have to agitate for change.
But I'm going to bring it back to left and right. I mean, you left or right of Catherine Murphy and Roshan Shortall?
Oh, I'd certainly be closer to the centre than either of them. There's no question about that. What we were trying to do was bring the different backgrounds together. A focus on economic responsibility, job creation, innovation, science, technology, all of the good things that are needed. I probably brought most of that to the table. Catherine and Roisin obviously have very distinguished careers in social policy and in political reform and areas like that. And so what we were trying to do, and succeeded to a point, was to try and bring all of that together, because modern social democracy, for me, is not about shaking the fist, and it's not about standing on the outside, telling people what they're doing is wrong. Modern social democracy has to be progressive, it has to be responsible, it has to be absolutely unashamedly pro-enterprise, and at the same time it has to be deadly serious about social policy, about public services. And that's what we were trying to do with the Social Democrats. So the fact that Catherine, Roisin and I, of course we do come from different points on the political spectrum, does that introduce a tension? Yes, it does. But what we wanted to do was turn it into a creative tension, where you're bringing the best of the different backgrounds together.
They weren't very warm in their press release. It seemed to be an implication that you weren't really putting your shoulder to the wheel to get the Social Democrats working. Was this a political fallout, or was there an element of personal fallout?
Well, yes, there was.
Of what? Of personal?
Well, yeah, the top team didn't work. Ultimately that comes down to Catherine, Roisin and myself. Yes is the short answer to that.
With particular Roisin, some people might say, oh, she's a record there with what happened in the coalition in the early days. She had to jump ship there. Is she difficult to work with?
I just don't think it's useful to get into any of that, Declan. It's history now. Look, we all try.
But why couldn't you get on with two people with the same common aim, that you sat down and formed a party, and three of you were going forward into a particular space?
But there were lots of reasons. But again, that really is well, I was hoping it would be between Catherine, Roisin and myself. Obviously, they decided to stick the boot in. It's certainly gone down very badly. It's annoyed a lot of people in Wicklow. I can probably, Declan, be fairly accused of a lot of things, but being work shy certainly isn't one of them. I've worked night and day for the last 6 years. Everybody knows that. I don't need to make that point. I was very disappointed to see them say it. It's not true. They know it's not true. But I guess they had to say something.
The difficulties, did that start with general conversations within the party, or as issues presented themselves? I'm thinking of water charges. There seemed to be a disagreement there. Apple, there seemed to be a disagreement. Maybe even government formation, that you had ambitions that they might have preferred, as they do, staying outside and maybe criticising from outside, but you've got an ambition to be inside, in government.
Well, let me just address.
There's a lot of things for you to answer here.
Yeah, thank you. let me just address the second piece, your last question first. My ambition is not to be in government. My ambition has never been to be in government. I served as an independent TD for the first 4 years. My ambition today, and all through the Social Democrats, is exactly the same ambition I had when I asked the people of Wicklow and East Carlow to allow me to represent them in 2011. And that was to try and help repair our society, our county, our economy, and then start seizing opportunities for the future and create a more caring, compassionate, long-termist and progressive society.
Sorry, Stephen, but I know that hasn't changed, but ambition to be in government is only the method of achieving that fine task that you set yourself.
Well, I guess my point, Declan, is if we accept that the ambition is sort of positive change in the way that I would like to see change, one mechanism for that is to go into government, but another mechanism for that is to be in Parliament. Another mechanism is to be a member of a political party. There was a huge ruling yesterday, which was the vulture funds. As you know, I've been leading the charge and getting the vulture funds to pay their taxes in Ireland. I think the tax bill that we could have missed out on could have been 10 to 20 billion euro. I brought that in from opposition. I raised it in leaders' questions from opposition. I worked with people in the media. We managed to get it on prime time from opposition. And then independent TDs in government, in this case I believe it was Catherine Zappone and Shane Ross, and it could have been some of the others like John Halligan and Finian McGrath, as part of their negotiations on the Apple ruling said, well, this has to change and it has to change now. So there's a combination of people. I worked very hard on it, as, by the way, did Pierce Doherty, Michael McGrath and others. There was some fantastic journalism. And then it got pushed over the line by independent TDs in and around Cabinet. So you can agitate for change anywhere, and you can succeed in change anywhere. You know, you could end up in a Cabinet position and get nothing done, or you could spend the same amount of time within the Dáil working in committee, doing things like vulture funds, and getting things to change. So it's not about being in Cabinet. Cabinet can be a good thing, Cabinet can be a bad thing. Some Cabinet ministers get a lot done, some Cabinet ministers get absolutely nothing done. So being at Cabinet is simply one mechanism. But if we are truly in the world of new politics, Parliament has to have a big say. And if you look at the vulture fund decision, that didn't come from Cabinet, that came from the opposition benches. It came from me, it came from Pierce Doherty, it came from Michael McGrath, and it did get pushed over the line by Cabinet. So you can affect change anywhere. So being in Cabinet is just one mechanism to do that. But it's absolutely not the point of any of this. The point is affect positive change as quickly as you can. And you can do that from anywhere.
The perception of the brand that is Stephen Donnelly, for some people, a very well-spoken, articulate, middle-class lefty, maybe. Maybe initially people thought you were a bit more like Shane Ross, but as you said yourself, you moved probably more to the left of centre. And you get elected as an independent. And during that, you become a Social Democrat. Then you get elected as a Social Democrat, and now you're independent. What perception does that send out of Stephen Donnelly, the brand?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's two different perceptions. I think the people in Wicklow, certainly based on the conversations I've been having yesterday, this morning, and over the last 6 years, I think they get it completely. I'm like most people who want to go in. I want solid businesses. I want responsible economics. I don't want us to repeat the mistakes of the past. I want investment in public services. So does that make me a centrist? I don't know. I don't come from politics. So I've had to learn this language that gets attributed to politicians. But fairly simple. As I've said to you before in the studio, Declan, I want a republic. I want Wicklow to be a county in a republic where everyone has equal opportunity and can live a life of dignity. And we're a long way from that. We're a fantastic country, and we've huge credits to our name and to the work of many people over many generations. But there's a lot more to be done. So the people locally get me, whether I'm an independent or, I try to agitate for change by setting up a new party. I don't think there's any question there. The political correspondence, I probably don't fit neatly into a box. I remember talking to one of them one day, and he described me as right wing, and I said, hang on. I said, I'm not right wing. I mean, maybe I'm centre left, but I'm certainly not right wing. And he said, yeah, but you're pro-enterprise, you're pro-business. I said, yeah, I am proudly pro-business, but that's not what right wing means. And he said, yeah, I know that, but that's the box. Once if you're seen as pro-enterprise, but you're right wing. It's a nonsense. We really have to move beyond this. For social democracy to work, it has to be pro-business. For all sorts of reasons. First of all, good jobs are better than bad jobs. And secondly, someone's got to pay for all of these things. Someone's got to pay for the education. But at the same time, I passionately believe in high quality public services. I want every kid in Wicklow to grow up with the same opportunity. Now, if you decide not to study hard, you decide not to work hard, well, then you're probably not going to have the same income as somebody who does. But by God, the state has an obligation to do everything it can to try and equal up your opportunity.
Okay,
so it doesn't matter if you were born in a low-income family or a high-income family.
But that's the philosophy
or your middle
now.
class or whatever else.
I get the philosophy, and that's the statement of where you are. So with the constraints, as you put it, of Social Democrats being not there, what difference will the electorate in Wicklow, East Carlow notice about the work of Stephen Donnelly?
Well, I guess that remains to be seen, Declan. What I've got to do now is...
Well, what were you prevented from doing?
Well, to answer that question, I think would be to betray confidences. We all worked on this very hard, and I want to respect the people I worked with, and I want to respect the party, and so I just don't want to go down that line, to be honest.
Okay. Well, let's move it differently then, and say for the future, all the newspapers today, every single one that covers the story is saying you're the TD in waiting for Fianna Fail.
Look, a conversation about what I do next is a conversation for me and my supporters. I've been immersed in the Social Democrats for nearly 2 years. Yesterday I made a very difficult decision to step back from that, to resign from that.
That wasn't yesterday, that was 6 months ago or so. You were saying that you've been unhappy. So this was in your head.
Sorry, but what I'm saying is the culmination of making that decision, Declan, has taken obviously a lot of time. I've talked to a lot of people. So that's where my head has been. I've been immersed in the Social Democrats for nearly 2 years. I mean, a lot of people in Wicklow have said, God, we haven't seen you. And, part of that is, you haven't seen me because I've been setting up a political party. And, that kind of, you got to work on that night and day. I'm going to be around the county. There's a lot of things going on in the county that I want to work on. There's projects in Arklow, there's projects in Bray.
We'd expect that no matter which party you're in. You got elected by us to do these things.
No, sure, but you're asking me what you're going to see. I'm going to be focusing in Wicklow back on the areas that I think are important, the people think are important. Nationally, I put a lot of work into vulture funds. We're going to continue with that. There has been a decision to close down the loophole, but we need a retrospective decision on that. I'm going to be focusing on the budget, obviously, public services, the housing crisis, and where I think there's a huge opportunity now in Wicklow in particular, but actually, across the country as well, is jobs and enterprise. Things like turning Wicklow into the first carbon neutral county, or turning Bray into
Wouldn't you be a great catch then for Fianna Fail?
And look, Declan, that's for Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, the Greens. That's my head is so far away from that. It's speculative. All I know is that I've been immersed in the Social Democrats. I have resigned from the Social Democrats. I'm an independent TD. I will be working just as hard as ever for the people who elected me to represent them. And I will be having a conversation. I started it yesterday with some supporters all around the county to say, what is the best way to continue serving the people of Wicklow and East Carlow? So that's the conversation I'll be having, but I'll be having it with my supporters. Speculating on the airwaves, navel-gazing on the airwaves by me serves nobody's interests.
And would you be closer to Fianna Fáil than the Greens, Sinn Féin, Labour?
I'm just not getting into that, Declan.
All right,
that's
okay.
a conversation.
All right, one last thing. You say about the team. Are you disappointed that Jennifer Whitmore has decided not to leave with you, and she'll remain the Social Democrats councillor, and perhaps even she might stand at the next election?
No, not at all. That's a decision entirely for Jennifer. Jennifer is a close friend of mine. She's a close work colleague of mine. I have nothing but the highest regard for Jennifer. So whatever Jennifer decides to do, I will support her and wish her the very best. And we're good friends. We will remain good friends.
Okay. So as a parting note to the electorate in this constituency, you're back giving it more focus and attention, not dealing with national issues apart from the vulture funds. What can you say to us today?
Yeah, my parting note would be this. I was elected to serve the people of Wicklow and East Carlow to the best of my ability, which is something I have always strived to do. Obviously, we all have good days and we have bad days. To do that, I believed, and still believe, Ireland needs a mainstream social democratic political force, a credible mainstream social democratic political force in this country. That's what I tried to do. I took a risk. Catherine and Roisin and people who got involved, we all took a risk. It was always going to be something very difficult. I'm very, very thankful to everybody in Wicklow and East Carlow who got involved in that, who remains involved, and I will be working harder than ever on behalf of the people here to do the best job I can for them in the Dáil, whatever that may hold in the future. That's my only focus. So I guess my last word would be a huge thank you. And I hope a lot of people have been in touch to say, glad you're gone. A lot of people have been in touch to say, it's a pity, but I understand why you had to leave, and we're with you. And to others who are disappointed, and I fully understand, I was very disappointed myself, I would say we can't be afraid to fail. You have to try new things. We have to agitate for change. It's very easy to just slot in, do what you're told, and carry on. We have to always agitate for change. And that means there will be good days as well as bad days. And we continue on, I think, full of optimism, full of hope, full of energy. And I will continue to agitate for change. And hopefully the people who are doing this with me will continue to agitate for positive change as well.
Okay, Stephen Donnelly, Independent TD. Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, Declan.
Good morning to you. Thank you. All right, that's Stephen Donnelly now. Back to the independent benches, and or maybe because of speaking rights, he'll link up and not move when it comes to the Dáil on speaking rights, because there's always this issue. But that's his views anyway. If you've got comments, and I see a lot of them coming in, our text number is 087 77 11 103.
The Morning Show on East Coast FM.
Personally.ie.
The Morning Show on East Coast FM.
The Morning Show
with Declan Meehan.
Thanks to the Bridge Tavern, Wicklow Town, your number one choice for live music 7 nights a week.
Right, what a kick to all the people who voted for Stephen. We want to change, and now he's going solo again. Pity all those people who got behind that party. Has he been tapped by Fianna Fail, says Shay. There is another one. What enterprise has he brought to Wicklow? Is he centre-left? Why leave the SDs? He is just a political commentator. And here's one, oh goodness me. Donnelly is and always was an out-and-out politically correct spoofer. A carbon-neutral bray, indeed. He and Eamon Ryan are two peas in a pod. So he's going to the Green Party. And that text from Owen. Owen, is that the man or the ball that you were hitting there?
Well, both, actually. I've been listening to this guy for 5 years. Since he's appeared on the scene, and it quickly became apparent to me that he just wants it every way. He appeals to the fears of middle class people primarily. I didn't hear the beginning of your interview, Declan, so I don't know if you put it to him that he had cried wolf on burning the bank bondholders, and gave the impression for a year or so that he was going to bring the government to court to stop the prevention of the bondholders being burned. And I also didn't hear whether or not you said to him that he was going to be front centre stage in the banking inquiry on the committee, only for the last minute to pull the plug on that as well. Did you mention those two things, I wonder? So,
do you feel that he sets himself up, he gets a lot of publicity, and then doesn't follow through?
Well, he's very good at these populist, middle-class fear-mongering, such as carbon-neutral Bray and Wicklow. Like, this is just garbage. Like, I've heard him for the last day, since he's been on the media, talking about how he was front and centre stage in what he calls the decision to end the Vulture Fund's charity status bogus stunt. But there's no decision been made. All that's been made is Michael Noonan has said he may or will do something in the budget. Now, the budget, as we all know, takes about 6 months to fully become law. That's given 6 months for the Vulture Funds to get out and avail of the charity status loophole. Like, these are things which the media are not putting to this guy. Like, Roisin Shortall and Catherine Murphy are the total opposite to me politically, but you can see that they actually have principles. I would like to be a supporter of theirs because I have great respect for them, even though I disagree with them. This guy Donnelly is just
And who do you like?
Who do I like?
Who do you admire in in politics?
Well, unfortunately, everyone I've liked has turned out to have feet of clay.
No, Owen, the political landscape is waiting on you.
Unfortunately, I just can't devote.
But you know what would happen if you stood up now?
Yeah.
You'd fall out with yourself. I'm joking, by the way. I'm not offending you. I'm just having a laugh. Yeah.
Can I just to bring it back to one of my hobby horses, as you know, Declan, climate. This whole business of climate change. It was a report in the paper yesterday. This is why I sent in the text about Donnelly wanting a carbon neutral Bray. Antashka went to Folan's, the school book company, Folan's, and forced them to take out a section in one of their school books about climate change, where they tried to bring a bit of balance into it and says that there are people who dispute this notion of humans causing climate change. Now, the climate always changes, has done for billions of years. Right? Now, this is like a bellwether of what politicians do. There are easy, low-hanging fruit targets, such as climate change, such as what Donnelly called a social democratic Europe and progressive actions. It's all nonsense. The main idea of all politicians in Ireland is to keep the public service as bloated and as freeloading as it is. That's basically what it's all about. That's what the water charges are for. That's what the property tax is for. It's to maintain the status quo of the public service.
Okay, Owen, apologies to you, but I'm run up against the news.
Thanks,
and as always, thanks for your comments.
Okay,
good morning to you. Take care now. And that is Owen McMahon there in Dublin. All right, that news creeping up on me very fast. If you'd like to comment yourself, please do on our landline, which is low cost number 0818 303 103.
At Permanent TSB, we're fine.